Good evening, everyone. We're gonna call the Brawley City Council Community Redevelopment Agency meeting to order Tuesday, September the 16th at 6 p.m. And can we have the roll call, please?
The minutes will reflect all council members present.
We'll have the invocation by Pastor Tom Charlton from Full Gospel Church and the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Mrs. Helen Noriega.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
I want to say congregation. I know that doesn't really come down and 4-H members. Let's pray. Precious Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight, Lord, that we can come before you, that we can ask special blessings, we can ask special guidance, Lord, for this group, Lord, that has to make decisions on how the city of Brawley is to be run. Lord, we recognize that as being very strenuous, very hard at times, and so we ask for your blessing upon this group, Lord, to guide them, guide their minds, guide their hearts, and guide this group here tonight. We ask it in the precious name of Jesus.
Amen. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda as presented. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, there's a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. The next item on the agenda is public comments. But before I do that, I do want to recognize my buddy, Mr. Lloyd Miller, for his first volume publication of the Desert Review. And I know Lloyd's ignoring me, but for all you guys, Desert Review has opened up an office here in Brawley, and this is their first volume. And Lloyd, congratulations, and we appreciate all that you do for us here in the city, brother. Okay.
Yay, Lord.
Want me to take a picture of you?
Okay, this is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter's jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you when you come to the microphone. Please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct your questions and comments to the city council. And if there's someone from the public like to come up, this is the time to do so.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council and staff. Jason Zara, Brawley Chamber of Commerce. I apologize, I've been remiss in my visits lately, and so I have a lot of catching up to do. So feel free to ring the gong or grab the hook if my 3 minutes run out, because we have a lot going on and I'm very excited. So the first thing I wanted to just touch briefly on is we have our Welcome Back Teachers dinner this week. It's Thursday night at the Stockmans, and I just wanted to express our pleasure at being able to honor all of the teachers for all the hard work they do in the community, and we're very proud to be putting on that event. Then we, of course, are rolling up on cattle call time, and I guess I now call it fall events time, since it's cattle call and farmers markets are going to be starting up at the same time, and so we have a lot going there, and just wanted to let the council, the public, everybody know about some of the changes. One thing we're doing this year, we're doing the Queen contest a little bit differently. As you may or may not know, for the second year in a row, we have one Queen contestant and one Teen Queen contestant. So the outcome of the coronation is pretty much predictable. So that said, in an effort to make life a little bit easier for the girls, we're going to scale the event back a little bit. The coronation is going to, instead of being a big formal dinner on Saturday night, is going to be more of just a coronation celebration on Friday night. It'll be at Stockman's Club on Friday the 17th. The girls will still be going through the full process. They're still going to ride the horses, do the speeches, model the Western wear. They're still going to do all the work, and just last year demonstrated that the girls work just as hard, even when they are pretty inevitably going to win. So I don't want to say that we're taking anything away from the girls, but this is partially at their request. We're just going to simplify the event a little bit because that reduces the strain. They are involved in some of the fundraising to make the event possible. And so with only two girls, we're reducing the burden on them by simplifying the event. We're focusing on making sure they still get everything that's always been part of the tradition. They're still going to get the gifts, the saddles, the buckles, the crowns. They're still going to get the full recognition, and they'll still continue to serve as representatives of the chamber throughout the year and represent the community of Brawley. So it's still going to be a lot of work. We're still going to be very proud of them. They're still going to be, feel like champions when they have their crowns put on at the coronation ceremony. But again, with one girl in each category, you have a pretty good guess who's going to win. So the horsemanship, since the coronation's been moved to Friday night, the horsemanship has been moved up to the Wednesday night before. That'll be the 15th. That will also be at the Cattle Call Arena as usual. The only thing that's going to change there is they won't be running cattle that night. Just again, that was just a logistical simplification. They will still, at a private arena, they will do some cattle runs to demonstrate their skills as part of the process, but we're separating that out. So then as we get on to the main cattle call events, I am overdue in submitting my letters to request the ability to sell beer at all of these events, but those will be coming. With that said, we of course have a very full schedule. November 1st will be the chili cook-off, and we're anticipating that once again having a good number of teams and a really exciting event. We'll be going out of our way to add a little bit more live entertainment to it. There's a stretch of time between when the chili runs out and when the winners are announced that we kind of hit a little bit of a lull. So we're going to be planning some possibly live music or live entertainment to fill in that lull. Make sure that it's a full day so you can bring the family out and stay all the way till the winners receive their trophies at the end of the day at around 2:30. Sunday the 2nd is going to be what we're calling the Cattle Call, Farmers Market, and Family Day. We are combining some elements of what used to be the Dia de la Familia on that day with a full farmers market, and we'll also have live entertainment. We'll also be unveiling the winners of our art contest on that day. So the Sunday the 2nd is going to be another very full event. Last year there was no event on Sunday of that first weekend, so we wanted to fill in that gap and bring like I said, bring back some elements from the past and introduce some new elements. We're hoping to have some carnival games and activities for the kids. It should be a really good excuse to bring the whole family out to the park for the afternoon.
Jay, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have a question. So since the event is coming back on Sunday, are they planning on having mass that day? Because I know they used to have mass.
That's one of the elements that we're open to bringing back. I haven't actually gotten that far in the planning on that one. In fact, I think Alma is the expert on that event, so I'll be touching base with her and some others to fill in the details.
That was really nice.
Certainly we're open to having that available. Monday night, the Cattle Call Mixer has traditionally been either at the Boys and Girls Club or at the Chamber. This year we're going to bring it to the new location. We're going to have it at Inferno in their outdoor stage area. I hope I'm not being preemptive in saying that and all goes well with their inspection, so that is in fact the plan. But
no pressure, right?
No pressure. So we're having a party at this place. We really hope the doors are open. So I guess that is our mostly set in soft stone plan. But we really would like to promote not only the new business, but since it's right on the plaza, and basically adjacent to where all of the other Cattle Call events will be, we think it'll be a great opportunity to promote the whole downtown, bring people out and get them in the habit of shopping downtown and sitting on the lovely new benches that will be in place and admiring the lovely new bike racks that will be in place and all these other things that will be going on.
Jay better start buying Francisco.
I know.
So the Tuesday and the Thursday events aren't actually through the Chamber, but I'd be remiss to not mention Cowboy Poetry and the Cowbell Cook-Off. One of the things we're going to also work on this year is doing a little more cross-promoting at the event. So, for example, we haven't got it all set in stone, but I'll be inviting them to come out and read perhaps a Cowboy Poetry sample at Chili Cook-Off to give everybody a taste of what they have to look forward to Tuesday night. We might have folkloric dancers at the Chili Cook-Off to give everyone a taste of mariachi night on Wednesday. That's the kind of thing we wanted to do. We really wanted to feel like Cattle Call Week, not just there happens to be an event on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday.
Right.
We really want to promote the whole week.
We need to look at moving our meeting that week.
I would like to.
Who promotes the mariachis? Who brings those in or invites them?
It's done through the Chambers Committee.
Does it? Okay.
Max Reyes is our mariachi event head, He's been doing it for many years, and he told me the name of the mariachi, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. I should have brought that.
So we only have one.
There's one primary, then there are also, I think they do a karaoke element, and there may be others that perform as well. There will be folkloric dancers. One change we're looking at there is we're going to move the entertainment out of the kiosk just because the crowding issues, and put it on a stage out on Main Street is the intent, to have more visibility and more, hopefully better. We'll get the speakers put up higher so that the sound carries. Apparently it was a wonderful concert on the north end and a wonderful quiet evening on the south end, so we're going to try and reconcile that a bit better this year.
Okay.
Wasn't that quiet?
Well, yeah. It was different sound. How about that? We also are bringing back the decorating contest. It was never officially gone, but we're making an additional point of promoting that this year as well. So the new queens will be judging the decorating contest. We're also going to take some photos of the businesses that decorate and share them online to do a social media People's Choice Award. And so we're looking to, everywhere I go in Brawley in the week of Cattle Call, I want to see painted windows, decorated stores, people in cowboy hats, like it used to be. And
Yes.
not to say that it's necessarily been remiss, but I think we could all agree that in the past there's been some more enthusiasm. We want to bring it back. We
Absolutely.
want to, this is the
Starting with us.
everybody knows this is the best event in the entire Imperial Valley, so we've just got to make sure that everybody remembers that they know it.
Right.
Then, of course, Saturday will be the parade. We are, once again, very excited about that. The theme is red, white, and blue, and so one thing we're doing this year is we're going to be waiving not waiving, but covering all of the fees for any veterans that want to participate. We want to try and get as many veterans groups involved as possible, and it's really something that we're excited about. Sounds like we're going to have some really impressive floats. I've already talked to a couple of groups that are interested in being organized. We'll have more details on that as we get closer. And then if that wasn't all enough, then you get this rodeo thing going on. So 2 shows Saturday, 1 show Sunday, and even though it's not the Chamber of Commerce, it's still a great event. So that's pretty much, I guess I shouldn't be remiss and skip the farmers market. Obviously, the November farmers market is being rolled into Cattle Call as part of that Family Fun Day and farmers market on Sunday the 2nd. But then they will also be the 2nd Saturday of each month, December through April. We will, in addition to the elements we've had in the past, we'll be making a point of having more live entertainment. We'll be hoping to have the Humane Society doing adoptions every month. We're going to have some sort of special themed entertainment or activities every month. The Boys and Girls Club will still be on board doing the Kids Zone, so there will be activities for the youth as well. And we just think it's going to be bigger and better than ever.
Yeah.
So.
Nice.
And a special thank you to the council for the arrangement as far as the business licenses to make it a little bit more accessible for the farmers market vendors. We really appreciate that.
Jamie, we commend your hard work, and we're looking forward to the events. And I have to admit, the farmers market for the first go-around last was really nice. I enjoyed those, and everybody had a good time, and the kids. So
Veggies were great.
maybe get a little Dunkin' booth for sound or something.
There you go.
The mayor.
Dunk the mayor.
Yeah, that's what he
We'll work on it.
Bring some
It
more
looks
chilies.
like,
So you can get chilies sold,
Okay.
different kinds.
it does
I was
look though
asked.
like you've mixed it up a little bit, and I'm excited to see. It sounds exciting. So you're right though that there has been a lull in maybe community-wide participation. Not for all the events, but it looks like they're a little bit more blended this year. And it sounds like it's going to be really good. So I'm excited for the chamber and for the city.
Thank you. We've also done it, just for your reference, we've done a large media trade with Intravision, so we'll be doing a lot of Spanish language advertising in the south end of the valley, because we want to reach out to the entire Brawley community. We want everyone from Brawley to be there. I'd love to have the whole city present, but we want to bring the rest of the valley as well, and so we haven't maybe reached out as far in the past, so we're
Yeah.
going to do that as well.
It's going to be awesome.
Very nice.
Any questions?
Thank you very much for your time.
I'm excited. I think I mentioned Mariachi Night because that, I think, I don't know what the number exactly
was
was, but
packed.
it was thousands.
Thousands and thousands of people,
And,
yeah.
and so I really expect, Jason, you guys are gearing up for a really exciting week. I think we should really have a lot of participation.
Yeah,
I think
even
I
more
look
than
forward
last
to it.
year.
Yeah.
Is there any questions from the public for Jay while he's up?
He did exceed his 4 minutes,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Well.
He's still
All right.
on 3 minutes and 50 seconds. so.
Thank you all for your time and patience.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jason.
Jason.
Great.
Is there anyone else from the public like to come up?
You have 20 seconds because Jason took
Well, hello, thank you. No, just kidding. Well, Mr. Mayor, Councilman, how's everybody doing? Council
Great.
and Councilwoman?
Yes,
Woman.
thank
I mean,
you.
Don't forget about you. I just didn't look this way.
You won't.
But that's what I'm going to talk about is, or where do we learn those type of skills? Well, there's an organization that is international by nature. If you're not familiar with it, it's Toastmasters International. And this organization focuses on developing communication and leadership skills. You may or may not be aware that in the Imperial County currently there's 2 Toastmasters clubs. At first there was only one club, which is Winter Garden Toastmasters in El Centro, which by the way originated in Brawley sometime along. It moved to El Centro. And of course what we're looking to do is in expanding those 2 clubs into having a 3rd club. And we're working on a 3rd club here in the Imperial Valley now. Briefly about Toastmasters, I mentioned communication and leadership skills. Well, you'll notice that in council, when people come up to the microphones, here not so much, but in other places, there's that lack of how do I act when I'm in front of council? How do I present myself? How do I stay within minutes, within time? It's very important. Well,
No
that's-
knock on you, Jason. No knock on you.
those are some of the skills that we work on Toastmasters. And of course, you notice a little bit of the that I've been doing. Well, we work on clearing those up as well. I catch myself because I've been in Toastmasters quite a while. You may not have noticed it. Now, what does that have to do with Brawley? Well, as I mentioned, there's 2 clubs. Well, Brawley's going to be the 3rd club. And to talk to you more about the Brawley Club, provide you even the name, some of the officers, the times they meet, I leave you with one of the club sponsors, Miss Katie Nino.
Thank you, and I'll introduce Josue Mercado is our area governor. We've been very lucky to have him pioneer Toastmasters and be a big part of expanding Toastmasters in the Valley. So Toastmasters meets the 2nd and 4th Friday of the month, and we meet at the Chamber of Commerce. Jason has been very instrumental in supporting us and getting us started here in Brawley. We just officially elected our officers, and so we have our president is Misty Lee. We have Jason is our treasurer / secretary. We had to combine roles a little bit. Betty is our membership / media person, and we have Gracie, who is our sergeant at arms. So we are super excited about being here in Brawley. We are so close to chartering the club. We need 8 more members, and so we're here today to ask your support and to please let people know that we have a great club here that will teach people how to speak in public, how to give presentations at work, just improve their overall speaking. And that's what I have. Did we have? Okay. Thank you very much. Did we stay within time?
Yes.
Okay.
You said 12 noon?
Yes, 12 to 1. And that is tentative for now until we get a full club charter. That might change in the future.
Bring your own lunch?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Jason, is that okay if we eat in the chamber? Okay, yes. Okay.
Yeah, you
Some
can-
people might go on their lunch hours, so I'm just
Yes.
asking. Okay, thank you.
You can eat in the chamber, okay.
Thank you, Josue and Katie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Copies of that paper.
Okay. Luis on this side.
Hello, everyone, board council members. After my presentation, you'll probably agree that I probably need to go join Toastmasters. Because what I got to present is not easy, and it's complicated, and I try to make it as easy as I can. My name is Luis Olmedo, and I represent Comité Cívico del Valle. And what I want to share with you is actually what's happening with AB 32. Now, it is a very complicated, it's been a decade in the making, and we're nearly a decade in the making, and I really want to focus on one thing, which is SB 535, but I'll give you a little background, just the simplified version. AB 32 is the first program in the country that takes a comprehensive long-term approach to addressing climate change, and it also improves the environment, natural resources, and maintains a robust economy. So there's always this challenge to try to balance the three. AB 32 also requires California to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions to 1990 levels, which when I graduated from high school. I didn't know the air was cleaner then. One of the really important things that we got to keep an eye on is the cap and trade program, because it does bring resources to communities like Brawley and the Imperial Valley. So in the cap and trade program, the government determines the cap in facilities or emissions that are covered by the program and sets a cap, and then these emissions or the proceeds of these auctions, which is in other words a permit really to pollute, right? For lack of a better word in my terms. So these proceeds then get reinvested to reduce greenhouse gases. So Senator De Leon introduced a bill which passed into law, SB 535, and this bill offers an opportunity to get direct benefits from the greenhouse gas reduction funds. And they provide significant and meaningful benefit to California's most impacted and vulnerable communities, or otherwise known as disadvantaged communities. And Imperial Valley is a disadvantaged community for the most part. I wanted to just read this article just very briefly because I think it sort of makes sense. But this was published back in June 13, 2014 from the Climate Wire. It says billions of dollars in revenues from California carbon cap and trade auctions will help fund the development of this high-speed rail. I know you've all probably heard of that. It'll also do public transit, affordable housing, communities that are located near jobs, and transportation under the deal. So this was something that was happening in the government. So Governor Brown, his office had carved out $870 million and expects to see in fiscal year 2014-2015 from the sale of these greenhouse gas pollution permits. And in the 2015-2016, they're forecasting a $5 billion annually from these proceeds. So I guess my point in this is that there's going to be a lot of money available. And one of the things that I wanted to bring to the attention is the fact that CalEPA, California Environmental Protection Agency, one of the agencies, Office of Environmental Health Hazards Assessment, came up with a formula to try to identify, like, how do we reinvest these monies and how do we put into practice SB 535. And so one of the ways they did it is they're actually developed what they call a CalEnviro screen. I gave you some of that information. And what it does take 19 indicators of environmental health and socioeconomic conditions, as well as basically a broad picture of relative burdens and environmental pollutions and vulnerabilities, and census tract data. At one point it had actually race, but they took that out. It didn't change a whole lot, but they say race is a great indicator of disadvantaged communities. That was taken out. It didn't affect a whole lot, so the picture looks pretty similar to how it did before they took out race. But just to give you an idea of what some of the things they're looking at, like pollution burden, we're talking about ozone, PMs, pesticides, toxics, and others. Environmental effects, cleanup sites, groundwater threats, solid waste, hazardous waste facilities, sensitive populations, where we're talking about children, elderly, asthma, emergency visits, and that's, we know that that's something that's very prevalent here. Low birth weight in infants, and socioeconomic factors. But these are some of the things that factor into the formula, which puts us in a very strong position to really bid for these fundings that are available. Now, I gave you some of the documents there, but some of the projects that could we could see in the near future through a lot of these agencies like CAL FIRE, like HUD, and a lot of these state agencies, which these monies are actually going to be fed into all these agencies, but they're going to have a guidance document that guides them a very specific criteria that will benefit, because SB 535 says out of the auction proceeds, 10% of the money needs to go to benefit directly in the disadvantaged communities. And there's a 25% that's right now kind of legally being analyzed, because it says 10 and then 25% could be in benefit of. So we are, as advocates, are pushing that. Let's separate them and say it's 35 versus taking 10 out of the 25, which would make a lot more resources available to disadvantaged communities. But give you some examples of what kinds of projects we could see: weatherization upgrades, renewable energy, energy efficiency in buildings. I know we saw universities. One of the things I said, local colleges would be very important because it's money that directly stays here in our communities. Agriculture, energy, water action plan, water energy efficiency, sustainable forests. So some of the urban areas would probably benefit from some of these, waste diversion. And so that's why it's so important that we've been at the table. We've been being an advocate for the disadvantaged communities in Imperial Valley. But it's also important, I think, as cities, as county, as local governments, and even as the private sector start looking into how we can position ourselves by both continuing to advocate aggressively so that we are within that 10%, that we are within that 25%, and so that we line up those resources to come here. So that's sort of the rushed approach to explaining what's happening right now. Now, there are some methods, and I'll close with this. There are 3 methods. Actually, there's 5 methods, and we're actually advocating for method 1, which would put the whole Imperial Valley in a better position, and basically saying that 20% of the disadvantaged communities in California benefit from these investments. And the way that the method 1 ranks census tracts, population center, and characteristics. Now, method 3 actually puts Brawley in a very strong position, even at 15% of the entire most burdened communities in California. But it does take away a lot of the Imperial County. So Brawley is, one way or another, wins method 1, method 3. The Coachella Valley is advocating for 25% because they lack a lot of data. They lack a lot of research that would put them on the map, especially in the eastern Coachella Valley. And so they want to go 25%. And so, you know, we're definitely supportive of that. What happens is that the greater the increase in percentage, you also spread the money much further, which means less money to those most burdened communities. So it's just one way to look at it. So I don't know if you have any questions on this.
Luis,
but,
I have a question on the next to the last item on the bottom where it says energy efficient public buildings. And I guess that's $20 million that's available there for 2014-15?
Right.
On that first chart? My question is, I know at our wastewater treatment plant, we utilize a lot of energy with our blowers and with all the equipment and stuff that's there. Would some of that money be available for solar panels or affordable tech or something like that to reduce our energy costs for like electric bills and stuff like that?
Yes, I believe that it would be available. There is some criteria, like I said, these fundings, like energy efficiency, says the California Energy Commission is the one that would have that money. If we're looking at the same line item, the CEC.
Yeah.
So these applications from the city or from a private contractor would go directly to the CEC, and the same with all the other programs. So we as advocates, I mean, we definitely want to be there to support the city. But one of the messages I try to get across that we as a city, as a county, that we need to speak with one strong voice, because there's a lot of advocates across the state, and they're doing the same thing, is coordinating these efforts. But the first that are lined up and ready to go, even, you know, calling it maybe shovel ready, then they're probably going to be first priority. But there is a criteria to meet within the 10%.
Yeah.
But it does put us at a greater advantage, because Imperial is
a disadvantaged
disadvantaged community, and especially in Brawley. It does show in mostly every map that Brawley is very strongly positioned for that.
Is that, I understand that's criteria, is that actually officially a designation, you know, the disadvantaged community portion? Is that something that's through criteria once you're designated that? Are you published on a map, or you know, are there district lines? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The only reason I'm asking is, does that vary from one fiscal year to the next?
It could, because it really what it becomes, and what I've been hearing is that it is a living document. They're really trying to push these $1 billion out into the community from these auction proceeds. I don't know if you recall, but last year, I think it was last year, a year and a half ago, Governor Brown used that money for other uses. I know they have a lot of great interest in building the high-speed rail for the Bay Area and Sacramento area. I'm not really sure how the map is drawn. So there's other interest in a lot of political forces trying to kind of tap into those dollars.
Larger forces than us, that's for sure. But I mean, I did meet with Louise last week on this matter, and I did bring the item up to our city manager, and some of the things that maybe we could work on too. I mean, something as simple as what Rosanna had mentioned was low flush toilet swap, like a program where we could do that within the city. And so we could get funding for that sort of program where it's reducing the amount of water that's being consumed by homes. I mean, maybe that's something that we can pursue, but it seems like it's I know there are restrictions, but it seems like it's broad enough to maybe incorporate some plans like that. So I'm glad that you made it out here to present to the rest of council.
Absolutely, and there is a map. You know, you can go on to the OICAS or Cali PA, and there's a lot of publication on it, so it's really easy to navigate it and get to it. And there's actually a GIS, a Google Earth link. And you can see, you know, what those shaded areas are. They sort of colored the map.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but I will, because it was a topic up at SCAG, up at the meeting I attend on the first Thursday of every month, and SCAG was not real enchanted about the phrase disadvantaged community.
Right.
Because when you say that, it makes people tend to stay away from you. So we was kind of under the impression they may have changed that phrase to.
And we talked about
Yeah.
that too. It's like, but you really have to look at it. You got to call a spade too, you know. And so if it is disadvantaged and we can benefit from it economically and really to benefit our community, I think it's something that we need to.
Yeah, it was
we
just
need
a
to consider.
conversation
Yeah, no,
that they had.
Right.
You don't want to turn people away from you by
Right.
phrasing something, you know,
Right. It's
in a negative sense.
Are these funds going to be like when Esperanza Colio went up to Sacramento and she had to be there, she got there like at midnight and had to stand in line to be the first one at the door? You know, they made a line to get funds, grants. I forget, it was that $1 million.
I think it was for CDBG money, at least based on the table provided. I think what they've got is an acronym in parentheses, and that's the state agency that would be administering the funds for one of the programs. Is that-
California Air Resources Board is the head agency and develop the
Got it.
administrative fund.
So I don't see HCD referenced here relative to those individual programs, but there are entities that we're currently working with as a local jurisdiction, including Cal Recycle, which is the funding entity for Imperial Valley Resource Management Agency, of which we're a member with other jurisdictions here in the valley.
Luis, appreciate it. A lot of good information.
Thank you.
And I'm not for sure if there's anyone else from the public that'd like to come up, but what I would like to do is do the 4-H recognition before we go to the next person that's here from the public, okay? Because these kids need to go do their homework. But let me.
And it's not on cap and trade.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor Campbell and members of the Brawley City Council. My name is Brianne Sanchez.
I'm Steven Johnson.
We are representatives of the Imperial County 4-H All-Stars. In the honor system of 4-H, an All-Star is the highest recognition that a 4-H member can achieve at the county level. We are also Imperial County's 4-H ambassadors. Tonight, I would like to introduce you to some 4-H clubs, Southwest Valley and Mulberry 4-H. Dylan and Jacob Sanchez are here, and Jocelyn and Jaden Lawson. To acquaint you with the 4-H program, nationally, 6 million youth ages 5 through 19 are registered in 4-H. 4-Hers engage in hands-on learning activities in the areas of science, citizenship, and healthy living.
Four-Hers are 4 times more likely to give back to their communities, 2 times more likely to be civically active, 2 times more likely to have healthier choices, and 2 times more likely to participate in science, engineering, and computer technology programs outside of school.
Okay. I've got.
They're not done yet.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Mayor Campbell and members of the Brawley City Council, thank you for signing and observing October 5th through 11th as National 4-H Week. By you signing and issuing the proclamation, you are giving credibility to the observance of this special week for a program that is very important to us. We feel honored to be here tonight.
On the local level, we have nearly 850 members enrolled, 275 adult volunteers who coordinate 4-H community clubs, lead 4-H projects, and help to plan 4-H events from county to national level. There are 14 clubs in Imperial Valley, with 3 clubs meeting in Brawley, Magnolia 4-H, M&M 4-H, and Mulberry 4-H. We are continually growing and expanding the program with a new 4-H club this year located in Heber, the Calexico area, named Dogwood 4-H. Before we close, as a small token of our appreciation, we have a few cookies for your dessert tonight.
Thank you.
just something for you guys to snack on after a full day of meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
We would like to depart with the 4-H pledge. As a true 4-H member, I pledge my head to clear thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living, in my club, my community, my country, and my world. Thank you.
All right, guys. And we do have a proclamation from the city. We'll give you guys, and I'll read it, and then we'll take a few pictures, and then you guys can go. It says, whereas 4-H is the nation's largest youth development organization and expansive network of 540,000 members and 3,500 professionals from the nation's 109 land-grant universities and the corporate extension system, supporting 6 million young people engaged in hands-on learning activities in the areas of science, citizenship, health, living, and whereas 4-H has been helping youth adults learn and grow together, work together for more than 100 years, has more than 60 million alumni across America, responding to challenges every day in their communities and their world, and whereas 4-H is brought to urban, suburban, and rural communities throughout California by the University of California, Agriculture and Natural Resources, and supports health families and communities by connecting parents and volunteers with the University of California facility, staff and resources with direct access to technology advances in agriculture and environmental sciences, health and human development, and related areas, and whereas 4-H teaches young people essential skills they need to strive and succeed throughout their lives, such as identifying sparks, desiring knowledge, setting goals, self-reflection, adapting to new situations, communicating and responding to the need of others. Whereas the University of California Cooperative Extension Imperial County 4-H Youth Development Program staff and volunteers support your people in elementary to high school with programs designed to shape future leaders and innovators and help young people reach their full potential as competent and confident leaders who contribute and are connected to their communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Don C. Campbell, Mayor of the City of Brawley, California, do hereby proclaim October the 11th, 2014 as National 4-H Week in the City of Brawley.
October? And I should mention that you all did a very good job presenting, so congratulations on that as well.
Maybe with the number, that's all right.
There's a mom back there.
Well, make the mom get a picture. She's taking the picture.
I think they want to get a
She's
picture.
taking pictures.
Okay, everybody look here, big smiles.
Great smiles.
All right, keep the smiles going.
The smiles. Oops.
Mom, get back in there. And sit back.
It's not a,
This is a Thank you.
Thank you for the cookies. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
very
very
much.
nice.
Good job. Jason, you could learn a little bit from them. They were on time, and they were, no, I'm kidding. They did well.
Before you guys leave real quick, Councilmember Sam Caution want to say something.
I'd just like to say thank you all for coming here and presenting to us and letting us present the proclamation. As my children were 4-H members and as I was a 4-H member, I'm quite proud of all of you, and I look at what it does for people, and I think it's great. Okay, thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Great job.
All right, guys.
I have to do their homework now, huh?
Yes, they need to do that, right?
Okay, we're still in the public appearance and comments. Is there anyone else from the public would like to come up? And if so, this is the time to do so. I just wanted to take care of the kids before it got any later, so. Okay, seeing none, and then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items to be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. The next item on the agenda is under regular business, item 4. Presentation by Jessica Brawley, Grant Coordinator, Imperial Valley Desert Museum.
Good evening, everyone. Jessica Brawley, Grant Coordinator at the Imperial Valley Desert Museum. Welcome.
I gotta give you a presentation. There we go. Yeah. No.
One over, right there.
There you go.
I'm very pleased to be here this evening. On May 6, 1996, this council approved a resolution to endorse and support the Museum and Information Center. And so I'm here this evening to give you an update on that project some years later.
Just a few.
This museum and this exhibit has been a dream in this community for nearly 40 years. And so I can show you the final designs tonight. It's exciting. It's very exciting developments. The design was done through Dean Weldon Exhibits, who no one really has any need to know that name, except he has done exhibit design for the Natural History Museum in San Diego Balboa Park. So he is regionally well respected. Just some background on the exhibit and everything that has driven the museum to this point. We did a strategic realignment in August 2011 with public input meetings. Some longtime Brawley residents were at those meetings. Harry Casey, for one, who actually has started giving us one of the collections, his collection, which will be one of the most significant collections available to the public at the museum, available for public academic research, along with Desmond Smith, who I've been talking to recently, who was teaching around the time of Percy Palmer. And we also have Percy Palmer's collection as well, and these are very significant academic collections. So those are the type of people that we're talking to, and the people that have input into our exhibit design and programs that we're running now. We came up with these 4 strategic goals: to develop a professional research, curation, and education program, to create active, dynamic programs and exhibits, focus on the voices of Native Americans past and present, and develop sustainable funding for the museum over the long term. We've been working on 1, 2, and 3, and now very heavily on 4. What we've been focusing on in the last 3 years is developing these program research assets. So we built a curation lab at the museum. When we started with the museum, it was an empty building. And so everything that you see when you come into the museum now has been built in the last 3 years. Probably empty is a little unfair, but it's close. So there you have it. Our programs and exhibits is something we've definitely been focusing on, and these words, active, dynamic, those come out of our public program, public strategic planning sessions. Nobody said they wanted to come into the museum and read a bunch of text. And so when we look at the design in just a second, you'll see a lot of bells and whistles, shall we say. And then that is. So the exhibit is all under this broader theme of Land of Extremes. I am a tourist myself to this area. So when I go 2 miles left and see brown desert and go 2 miles right and see a bunch of farming, that's weird. It is certainly a land of extremes, and that has become the theme of our exhibit. We've broken into 3 minor themes, let's say. We do have a Native American archaeology collection, and so there will be this focus on the science of archaeology, kind of the nitty-gritty. laboratory dating testing. We'll have a Masters of the Desert section, which explains the first people who were here and how they thrived in this area, which seems almost impossible without irrigation, right? And then we'll have this explanation of the natural environment and how everything we do today here in the county is impacted by this long natural history of geology and natural environment. Those three areas are actually going to break down, three minor themes are actually three areas of the exhibit. So this is the designed floor plan, pardon me. Let me see what the next slide does. Yep, all right, so we'll be building in 3 phases. Phase 1 is going to be Native American culture, the ancient Lake Cahuilla, which is the 100-mile-long lake which went down to Baja, so the Salton Sea was really, really big. And the archaeology sections. These are all funded through energy mitigations. So this is kind of like the required portions of the exhibit. That's that large, almost half of the exhibit area will be started. We have started fabrication on this. In fact, this is happening right now. So the archaeology section here will have a lot of laboratory themes. So this will become important in our 4th grade field trips, 4th, 5th, and 6th, in fact. The dream of the museum is to have every 4th grader in the county, when you're learning California history, come through the museum. So with the opening of the exhibit, we project that within 5 years we'll be able to meet that goal. And so in the archaeology section, you'll be doing a lot of science technology learning, and those are the learning objectives for that section. Here again, this is sections that, or rather exhibit elements that will focus on adaptation to a desert environment, so how Native Americans, how the heck they managed it. One of the assets of the museum is a 200 whole or almost complete ceramic oyas. A lot of that, in fact, is Percy Palmer, Ernest Weir, Brawley collections. Wow. We'll have a diorama section, which will be the edge of Lake Cahuilla, Route 1500. Based on archaeology reports, we'll use the information in those to kind of recreate what it would have been like to live on the edge of the lake. This totally blows my mind every time I try to conceive of what it would be like if there was a lake here. Like the whole vegetation would be different, the plant life would be different. Some of those things are still with us today, some of the birds and flora and fauna. Some of it is, you can only find it by the Colorado River, and some of it is entirely gone. So that will all be in this section and kind of giving this comprehensive view of how human adaptation to the desert interacted with the natural environment. So phase 2 is what we call Land of Extremes and our visitor surfaces. So this is going to be funded by an IID local entity grant, and it will be the coolest thing in the museum. So the museum is definitely going to have this section, this type of visitor that, because of our location off I-8 in Ocotillo, we are finding ourselves to be a kind of a gateway to the desert visitor. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a portion of those desert visitors who are just going to stop in the museum for information, and so you see our little arrows. They will walk in the door, they will stop the Land of Extremes exhibit, get some information, and they will walk out the door, which is fine. But in that, 5 minutes that you have their attention, you still have an opportunity to give them information about what there is to do here in the county. So this is kind of an imagining as you walk in, you see this Land of Extremes. This smaller, let's see if I got my mouse. This smaller panel here is actually kind of an iPad. And so what you're doing is looking at kind of a Google Earth type of image. It will be recorded for the museum on top of Carrizo Peak. Yep, over by Painted Gorge. We'll do a 360 shot around, and you'll be able to zoom in on that to get more information. So there will be hiking information, but we're also encouraging local businesses to buy in to this and promote themselves. And so you could zoom in and see Burgers and Beer or get information on Brawley. And that will all be, it's going to be cool. All right. So phase 3 is what we call Power of the Land and the Geology section. This is a currently unfunded section, which for me personally is kind of a crisis because 4th grade geology, the rock cycle is big in there, and we are working very diligently to meet school curriculum requirements. So we'll be talking about this in the community fairly shortly. So about a third of the exhibit space is going to be taken up with Power of the Land. Here we have just an imagining of the exhibit. This right here is one of the fun bells and whistles. It's a $300,000 shake table where you would be able to stand on a platform, press a button, and feel what a 1.3 earthquake feels like. We here may not need to experiment with that, but we were also toying with the idea of making it a guessing game so that it also appeals to local audiences, where you can press a button, it'll randomly shake, and you can try and guess whether that was a 1.5 or a 3.0. Again, we'll also deal with the volcanic activity. So Obsidian Butte, if those of you who don't know, is actually an active volcano, one of 6 in California. And so Imperial County, as you walk through the museum, through the exhibits, you find more and more of these little tidbits of information that actually make our area quite interesting. You no longer have to explain it to people. It'll be all spelled out for you as you walk through the exhibit. There you have Salton Butte is an active volcano, one of 8, pardon me. And so this all buys into what we do in the desert today. So all of the geothermal projects that are coming in now, that all has to do with the natural history of this area. And so we'll have this little dedicated section which discusses ocean to lake to desert and how the area has changed here. And then we'll also have this section which talks about the area today. Mm-hmm. So we make something like 4 million salads and distribute that around the U.S.
Almost 5 million there.
Almost 5, exactly. Like that's really a fascinating, interesting thing. I did not know that. Maybe everybody else here does, I don't know. 360 days of sun. So just little bits of information about the things that impact us today and how we harness that energy and use it. So really kind of a complete view as you walk through the exhibit from the beginning of time to now. These are just some anticipated visitation numbers. There are standards in museums where we generally get about 3% of the leisure traveler population, or 3% of the population in general, and so that's where this 53,000 people annually comes from. But it's also estimated from this regional visitation, the valley and the immediately surrounding areas gets almost 3 million. 3 million visitors annually. That's kind of a crazy number.
It is.
But in the museum, what we found is we've not officially been opened, right? There's no signs. Everybody tells me that. There's no signs at the museum.
Signs, they don't say open.
We can talk about that later. It's all in process. But we do, even before, when it was just me in a building 3 years ago, people would try the doors of the museum because they saw a car there, right? And they would try every one until they found the open lab door, and then they come in, and I'd be like, what? And they're, hey, oh my gosh, Peter, you're open? Close, so close. Anyway, we see that those visitors right off. We saw that people stop at the museum just to see the museum. So it's not so surprising to us that we drastically increase our visitation as soon as the exhibit is open. And this is just kind of a projection of that. So here right now, most of our visitation is Imperial County with a tiny sliver for Ocotillo, and our regional visitor just trying door handles and wandering in. This Imperial County portion is almost entirely from programming. So people come out to the museum to do programs. And then our 2016 projection, where you can see a drastic increase in the regional visitation. Though this Imperial County, we will still do the same amount of programs, about one public program a month, but it will just pale in comparison to our regional visitor section. So, what is next? This slide always makes me laugh because by the time you write a presentation and send it to Alma and it gets up here, it's already behind. Things are moving so fast. So fabrication has already begun on the exhibit. In fact, I have to run home and write up some notes for the exhibit designer who's trying to get us to make all of the final decisions as soon as possible. The Land of Extremes, which again is at Visitor Services, capturing people going in and out, begins fabrication in October. So they've already started the backdrop of that, and we start the software portion of that soon. Interpretive panels, all of that text, which you're a museum, you have to have text. It's kind of a requirement. That'll all be finalized by the first week of November. I'm starting to get panicky just thinking about this. And then the exhibit installation begins in December. So actually what we have up in the museum right now is a traveling exhibit on native foods. The last day for that is October 11th. And then we go dark and start construction, indoor construction in the museum. And then they'll start sending us, our design company will start sending us portions of the exhibit to begin installation. And it opens in the spring of 2015, which is rather exciting, I think.
That's it?
That's it. I'm trying to
Jessica isn't from here, and I asked her, I said, what brought you to the Imperial Valley? I said, it's so hot. And she goes, that's what I love, the heat. I said, oh my gosh, it's got to be crazy to have like this heat.
I'm telling you, we've had a lot of success reaching out to the visitors because we are the visitors. And so it's been actually really easy. We've done programming that we want to do. We've been interacting with hiking groups and Hakumba, and when the BLM was doing their hikes as well. So
over to Pat's for the seniors.
Oh yes, definitely. I will talk to anybody.
Even if they can't hear, huh?
Well.
Any questions for Jessica?
Jessica, other than thank you for coming out here, and we wish you the best. I certainly do, and I know it's going to attract a lot of people. People love to see natural resources and what they're made of, and the history of them. So I think it's going to be very successful.
Excellent, thank you.
Jessica will be leaving us when?
In probably 2 months' time. Me personally.
Right. She'll be going back home, and home is?
Home is New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you coming back?
I can't. Apparently, I can't leave.
Yeah.
I was the head curator for 2 years there. In fact, my contract finished, and I'm back just to tell everybody what's coming because it is exciting. It's very exciting.
Very good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is 4B. Review and potential action, resolution number 2014, resolution of the City Council of the City of Brawley, California regarding Affordable Care Act, look-back measurement periods, safe harbors.
Honorable Mayor, Council Members, Shirley Benias, Personnel and Risk Management. I have the wonderful, here we go, here. I have the wonderful task of helping everyone understand at least a small, thank you, Council Member, at least a small portion of the Affordable Care Act. And joining me as a team member to help understand the impact to the City of Brawley is our Assistant Finance Director, Rosa Ramirez. So together we have teamed up a finance and an HR type of mentality to help understand what this does and what we should be doing. So here it goes. So some of the major features, as everybody's aware of, it was enacted back in March of 2010. The biggest thing to kind of roll in your mind is it's a 1,000-page document. It's evolving constantly with interpretations and what we should and shouldn't be doing. defines the large employer, which is the city of Brawley, since we employ more than 50 full-time employees, and regulates the employer's method of measuring health care benefit eligibility, and that's what's in front of you today, and establishes benchmarks and possible penalties if we don't reach those benchmarks. So tonight's action is a resolution to establish a measurement period of measuring the number of hours an employee works. So it's called the safe harbor or look-back measurement period. And then we're going to get kind of familiar with some of the definitions, and if I'm going way too fast, tell me to slow down.
You're fine.
Oh, good, thank you. So one of the definitions is full-time employees. It says substantially all full-time employees. And again, full-time to the city of Brawley has always been 40 hours or more. This definition is an average of 30 hours or more. So we kind of flip our brain just a little bit to incorporate that. And the affordability component is the employee cannot pay out of pocket more than 9.5% of their gross wages for health care premium, specifically medical care. Okay. We're going to touch a little bit on that, but that's going to be part 2 more of the affordability. So how does the city of Brawley look like right now as far as substantially all? The President of the United States signed a little change in the Affordable Care Act a couple years back and defined the large employer and gave the large employer a period of time to kind of get up to the point where they need to be to bring health care to all full-time employees as defined by the Act. So we're okay in 2014 of meeting the mandate because there is no requirement for large employer in 2014. We do have one in 2015. It's 70% of all employees who's working 30 hours or more on average. We are hitting that. We've got 92%. 2016's yet to be determined, and it all depends on what happens tonight with the resolution. All right, here we go. Standard measurement period. We propose, staff recommendation is to make that a 1-year period. In the resolution, it does state October 1st through September 30th. And this applies to our current staff. That's why we have to measure it right now. We have to measure our current staff. Who of our current staff is variable hours? Who might be working 30 hours on average or more? We already know our regular full-times. We don't have to count them. We already know. They are already given our offered benefits. It's those temporary employees we've hired and the part-timers that might be working a little bit more than their set 20, 25 hours.
So, question real quick.
Yes, sir.
So that 30-hour average would be calculated over that 12-month period? Is that?
Yeah, exactly, okay. Sir. Exactly. What also President Obama signed in is it excludes seasonal employees and all volunteers. So if we had let's say a volunteer fire department, we use a lot of volunteers in the library, we don't have to count those.
Okay.
And the seasonal employees we bring in for the summer day camp and lifeguards, we don't have to count those.
Don't have to count those, okay.
So again, the definition of full-time, according to the Act, is going to be the 30-hour average. So we're looking at those who meet that threshold. That's our major viewpoint. I don't know if this helps. It helped me when I was going through the training. So what it looks like on a timeline is the standard measurement period. Again, this is for our current employees. We're going to look from October 1st to September 30th. Mm-hmm. The Act gives a 90-day period, and the resolution does too, allows us to look at that data, determine who those people are now that qualify under the Act. And the stability period, which I'll go through a little bit more, is that time where if I, as an employee, work 30 hours average per week, and so now I qualify for benefits where I didn't before, the stability period was that period where I'll be given benefits that whole period. Okay? So in other words, you qualified me, I now get health care insurance. I don't have to requalify every month. I'm going to requalify, I'm going to be good for that whole stability period. And the law says that I have to have that period of time to be the same as the measurement period of time. So 1 year standard, 90 days admin, 1 year stability. But while the stability period's going on, Rosa's going to be calculating, starting that measurement period all over again to make sure I qualify for the next time the measurement's in.
So if they didn't, if you took and looked at the 12-month period.
Yes, sir.
And they qualified only 6 months out of that time, you would still pay them the benefit. Even though if you totaled up all the hours for the 12 months, it wouldn't average over 30 hours a
No,
week.
sir. We're going to look at all hours. If they worked 40, they worked 40 hours a week for 6 months, and all of a sudden they worked 15 a week. They don't qualify because they are not averaging for that whole year's period at an average of 30. So the year period actually gives us more time. So if we have a peak, let's take library. They had a staffing due to different medical leaves.
Right.
Maybe that peak, that little spike would happen, but then it would hopefully tail off, and then that larger period of time would give it more time to tail off and to average
So where it's
out.
below 30, is that?
As long as the average number of hours, if I take all their hours divided by 2080, take all their hours divided by 52 weeks, if that number is 29.2, I'm good. If that number is 30.8,
Then you have to.
they're eligible. But please remember the previous slide that in 2015, only 70% of our full-times have to be on. We're really focusing, looking at 2016 as going forward. So here's that stability period, that same measurement. I kind of covered this already. After the 90-day admin, where Rosa's crunching numbers and letting me know who those people are. Okay, Shirley, these people qualify. It's January 1st, 2016. You need to get them some health care, so I'm signing up all these folks and offering them health care insurance. And it's that January 1st, looking into the end of December, that they would be qualified and eligible to receive benefits. Just health care. No other benefits as a regular City of Brawley employee is afforded.
So is there going to be someone keeping track, let's say, the first 3 months and just check and see how many hours they have in? You know at the end of 12 months exactly how many hours they qualify with and how many hours they don't. You said
yes,
29 point whatever. Okay, so are we going to be checking on them periodically to make sure they don't pass and they don't get insurance? I mean,
Sure.
I'd like to know.
Valid point.
Yeah, I think everybody else would like to know.
It's a cost-saving mechanism.
Exactly.
And Rosa has been charged with our tracking mechanism, and we can give those type of reports. If that's what is necessary, we'll be more than happy to.
Can I add on?
Sure.
With Councilmember Noriega, are we also, is that, just so I'm clear in my mind, new employees? I understand so far what's been explained here, but the new employee that you're not going to have the look back, so you're doing the forward look. Is that correct? The 12. Okay.
Thank you for the great segue, Councilmember Gordon. The initial measurement period is exactly what you're talking about, is those newly hired employees. So let's say the employee wasn't with us October 1st, 2013. So we have to look at them for 1 year. From the first of the month following their date of hire, so they're hired on the 29th, I'm going to start looking at them at the 1st and tracking their hours. But what's going to be determined first, upon the date of hire during the requisition process, are they coming on board, A, as a regular full-time employee, going to have pension and vacation and all that good stuff. Those I don't have to count. The ones that I'm going to have to count are the ones that I'm hiring that I don't anticipate is going to work 40 hours. They're going to work less than 30.
Right.
Those are the ones that Rosa is going to be charged with.
And we have not been providing medical coverage for. So
That's
that's
correct.
the reason. It goes back to the question that you posed.
Yes.
I want to make sure I understand.
Yes, sir.
That you're gonna look at a year's eligibility period, okay? Or a year's, you're gonna track them for a year to see what they do.
Yes,
And then
sir.
you're gonna have an administrative period, then you're gonna have a year that you have to provide them with
Implement,
services.
yes.
Is there, and I guess that's a conscious decision that we make. If we were gonna review them for 90 days and then give them an administrative period and then give them 90 days of health coverage, did you guys work it out where this is better for us than that, or a shorter period of review cost us more? How did you do that?
That's a very good question. Thank you, Councilmember. What I personally looked at, and as personnel, I was tasked with it more than finance, what would work with CalPERS.
Okay.
So we have an open enrollment period September, October for a January 1 start date. Most health plans are on a calendar year.
Okay.
And the ebb and flow of normal personnel. And I've been with you for 6 years now, and thank you for that opportunity. But pretty much our summer months, we have this huge spike at 250 employees. Again, seasonals aren't counted.
Right.
And then we have this spike again when we have a cattle call or major events. This is the way to stretch it out. I'm afraid if we go to a smaller and jump it on and off, CalPERS, number one, has given us a circular letter saying they're ready for a non-pension employee to come on board
For medical.
for medical only.
For medical only, it has to be done at open enrollment? You can't-
No, sir, it can be done at any time. It's just easier to measure the period
At open, again, at open
and then have them, okay, Rosa, I need it before October 10th. What am I looking at so I can bring them in? I have all the materials, I have the new rates, I'm fully ready for them.
Right.
So that is why your personnel and risk management administrator, and we have recommended the one-year look at.
And are we required to do the 1 year forever after that?
Until you want to change the resolution.
Okay.
That's why we're doing it by resolution, so we can change it at any time. There has been some legal advice to do it by a policy rather than a resolution.
Okay.
Policies are usually changed at the city manager level. Of course, we always go to council and advise, but I think the resolution in this case, even though it's a 3-page resolution and it is very complicated, it gives all 5 members full knowledge of what we would like to go forward with.
How many employees we think we're going to have in
Yes.
this situation?
If I may, I would love to refresh where we left off in our budget process versus kind of looking forward. So in the budget process for this fiscal year that began July 1, we had a number of backfill slots that were temporary,
Right.
and they are known to be greater than 30 hours a week. So we do expect that these are folks that we will be considering in this evaluation period. 2 are reserve firefighters that are part of backfilling shifts with the opening of the second station. Remember, we're on a plan for add a firefighter a year for 4 years. This is this is year 2 of adding the second firefighter, so 2 remain and are on regular shifts. In Public Works, we have an operator in training at the wastewater treatment plant that is a full-time temporary individual. At the police department, we have a dispatcher that's a part-time temporary dispatcher. I don't believe that this individual, due to scheduling and bringing online a full-time equivalent permanent, that this person's going to be a problem into the future in terms of accommodating the hours, because we're in the midst of a change of schedule currently. We have a graffiti abatement worker that unfortunately we keep busy 5 days a week, and I think the council's desire has been to continue to abate with vigor, but that person is working 40 hours a week. We have a maintenance worker that is staffing the police department and currently providing some additional help to the admin office. That is a 40-hour-a-week individual. At Parks and Recreation, we have 2 maintenance workers. You might recall we used to have 4 full-time temporary workers. We filled 2 of those slots this year We have 2 remaining that are temporary workers. We also have a senior center coordinator who's a temporary full-time individual, as well as the admin secretary position, a full-time position. So in total, as we have reviewed with staff, and assuming the library is going to be a non-issue as scheduling has gotten normalized with their use of part-time workers, I believe we're looking at a total of 9 individuals if I subtract out the dispatcher from PD. 9 that could fall within this category of being eligible for benefits.
At this time?
Not at this, well, at this time, but not in effect till 2016.
Right, okay, so, and what are we talking about in terms, I don't know if she needs to continue her.
I think there's a couple more slides for her to
Why
share
don't we
with
let
you.
her do that, and then we can go back to questions.
Excellent. And just to recap what our city manager said, they probably do qualify right now, and we'll give you more of that information in part 2. But we're going to be measuring again, come October 1st, 2014 into September 30th, 2015 for their eligibility in 2016.
Okay.
And that's going to be where we can really look at the hours, what do we need to keep services at what they are, and then move forward. Last couple slides, I promise. So the initial measurement period, again, is for the newly hired, same 12-month span. The affordability component is number 2 of, and I will just briefly touch on it right now. The employee contribution, what comes out of pocket for the employee cannot exceed the 9.5% of monthly gross wages. And what Rosa was able to locate in the documents, that we are able to use W-2 wages. It says household gross wages, but we don't have access to household. We have access to employee only. So we're just going to be using the W-2 wages that we have to do the testing, if you will, if we're affordable or not. And how you figured that out, 2014, during the budget process, we did this exercise, and this is how it was done. So the lowest cost premium for medical coverage this year is $457.17.
Per month.
Per month.
I'm sorry, per month. Thank you for the clarification. The city gives a per month allowance of $273.84. So we offset that cost to the employee by $273.84, leaves a $183.33 out of pocket per month for that particular product. And the act just says it's the lowest cost single coverage, so we're good there. So what is that employee cost annually is just shy of $2,200. So what is the annual salary they need to be at to be affordable? And that's the $23,157. Hence, we increased the employees who are regularly scheduled 30 hours or more, who was making $10 an hour, up to $11.14. So we are now affordable. For 2014, we are affordable.
And just to emphasize, these are assumptions built into this year's budget process. Everybody that was 10 or under.
We went over all of this, so
We went through the motions, yeah.
So that's 2014. What we're going to bring back to you, the next step, and that is for our first council meeting in October. Finance will give us some analysis, if you will. So we're going to look at the 2015 lowest cost medical coverage option with everybody receiving your open enrollment packets. You already know they went up quite a bit. There will be an affordability analysis done for council's review, as well as the cost of compliance with the act versus non-compliance. What are we looking at fines if we choose not to comply? And that's the end of the presentation.
We need to comply.
I think ultimately we're going to have to comply, but I think we have to look at our systems and see how we do things. I mean,
So what staff is recommending is the resolution that's in front of council.
Is there any questions from council for Mrs. Benitez?
I think Ms. Muniz did a great presentation. You're definitely taking a complex topic, and again, I appreciate the backup information that pretty much reviewed all the facts here. So anticipated costs, I take it, will be next step with finance.
Yes, sir. An analysis of who, how many is currently would be
Right.
put forward if we didn't have the reprieve of 70%, what it will take, different scenarios of meeting the affordability, if you will, and then compliance versus non-compliance.
Right, and I thought it was good that Councilmember Couchman's question really clarified. We did have a choice. I think it was a range of, it was a minimum of 3 months, am I correct? 90
That's
days,
correct.
all the way up to a year, and that's the max. So I guess that makes sense, and it seems like it's in sync with our current practices with delivering benefits. But I just hope, kind of moving forward in doing this, that we understand as a council as well as the public that we still don't know what we don't know. So it sounds to me like we've got to put something out there. We've got to move forward with a resolution. And I do like the fact that we can still, as a council, with that resolution, revisit and see what the impacts are.
Always.
We'll know a lot more by November of next year.
Yeah.
We really will, yeah, so.
Well, part of the budget process, I anticipate, and I'm sure finance does as well, is that we're going to have to do this analysis going forward and see what's the financial, whatever you decide in October, if we do decide something, and then how we're going to implement that within the budget process.
What's unfortunate, and I know it hasn't been echoed here, and I think there's no intention to, but I see in the private sector, obviously, when this mandate really takes full hold, is employers forced with the decision of reducing hours of employees in order to avoid some of these potential cost impacts.
Well, that's
Obviously,
what-
I think from a city standpoint, we're certainly not looking at that, but again, just throwing that
I mean,
comment
it is
out there.
something we're considering,
we
though.
may
I mean,
look
we
at
have to
that,
look at
you know,
that.
I think-
Because it's not, we typically had not been paying benefits for somebody working 30 hours. Now we are in a position where we would be mandated to provide that coverage, so.
Yeah, the health care coverage
coverage.
only, we still do not have, we're not mandated for pension or sick leave, well, excuse me, sick leave's coming.
Sick leave.
Sick leave's coming, that's another whole topic. But vacation and holiday pay, that still doesn't come into play. But health care is the largest cost at this time because pension is a share of cost due to PEPROS.
And I do think we need to look at all this, and it's not a large number of employees, certainly, at least not at this point in time, but as we grow as a city, you look at more and more people maybe fall in within that category. As we have crisis situations develop, there's all kinds of little things that can happen. But I think ultimately, it's just going to cost us more money, and I think everybody needs to be aware of that. And it's kind of a mandate that we don't really have a lot of control over. I mean, we can take a certain amount of action in order to alleviate the problem, but also we have to make the city run efficiently, and we have to have public safety, and we have to have all those things. So in terms of cutting service, it's going to cost us more money, and I think the public needs to be aware of that. And it's not something that we're doing by our choice, although I don't necessarily think that health insurance for employees is a bad thing. I think that's probably a good thing, and they probably should receive it. But I just think it puts us in a kind of an interesting situation.
And how do we explain this to our staff, our employees, for them to understand, do we do it individually? Do we do it as a group? How is that explained to our employees?
This topic has actually been raised on a number of occasions with departments that have the temporary employees. I've had it come up in the budget process. I was able to describe what action had been taken for this fiscal year, what direction we were headed for the next year. But with temporary staffing, one of the advantages of using it, unfortunately, are you can flex as needed. So what I tried to do in the budget process with the help of staff was to disclose up front, if we don't have a service level reduction, we've got staffing levels that we're trying to maintain using a short-term solution. Short-term solution for temporary employees is we can make some very, very, very educated guesses about what's going to happen in the next fiscal year based on the approved budget, but I can't guarantee what's going to happen in subsequent years. And with temp, you're flexing to conditions.
So on these new, sorry to interrupt you. So these new employees, this is part of their orientation that we explain that to them about? Do they ever say, do I get, since I'm working, even though it's part-time, do I get insurance?
May I? Sure. Councilmember, it's when they are hired, especially temporary employees, it's fully explained to them via an appointment letter. Especially the ones we just hired, by the way. We just pretty much got most of our general laborers on board for cattle call week. They were told no benefits, no fringe benefits. It's articulated in the letter, but they're easy because they're seasonal. We have not hired currently anybody where it's going to be questionable. When it comes about, then we'll tell them what their scheduled hours are, and then it would be my responsibility to advise them if they're starting to meet or if we've deemed them, and they will be part of the open enrollment process. But at the time of hire, the biggest thing that I have to communicate to finance is that they're variable hour, or you don't have to track these guys because they're seasonal or they're coming on regular. So the variable hours are the only ones that we have to track. So they will be our part-timers, and those we anticipate to work less than 30 hours a week.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. If there is no other questions, and then we'll call for the vote.
Go ahead and make a motion, or is it just a?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make the motion then that we do take the Affordable Care Act look-back measurement period safe harbors resolution as presented.
Okay. There's a motion, there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is review and potential action, approval of a housing owner-occupied rehabilitation program loan H7664-441, funded by Home 7664 in the amount not to exceed $22,000.
Well, Mr. Soto makes his way up. I do have some photos for the council if you're interested. With these loan-based projects, we keep confidential the borrowers' names, although they are available to council in a closed session environment. But I do have photos for the council, so you have an opportunity to connect some of the description of work to be performed with the physical locations.
Done. The one with the vehicle, is that the item D? Is that what that is? Or is this the same? No, it's not the same
Now, they're two
property.
different locations.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The one with the vehicle in the front is item D and the other one is item C. Is that accurate? Or is it the other way around?
It's got to be the other way, I would think.
Mayor Campbell and members of council, Francisco Soto, building official. The item that you're looking at, it would be item C, and that would be that would be the laundry room.
Yes.
Pictures, and that is the first item that we have before you today. It is a laundry room reconstruction. It has gone before the Housing and Community Development staff in the state. The owner has met the criteria for the loan underwriting analysis and all our points of the housing rehabilitation guidelines. The fiscal impact is $22,000, and it is going to be funded by an open home grant that we have. But when you see the council fact sheet, you're going to see that the total amount is $26,000. Because of the guidelines, we could not afford to loan the other $4,000 for the portion of the roof that is the rest of the house. But thankfully, our guidelines do allow us to partner with private funding, and you'll see that personal financing is going to be $4,000. We have that in hand already from the homeowner, and so that makes the original bid package went out that way, but there was some circumstances that didn't allow us to fund that. So before you is this loan, and we are recommending that you approve it so that we can do the final funding and get that constructed.
If I may ask, Francisco, the $4,000, is that tied into the same loan, or that's a different loan?
No, it's an individual funded deal, so what happens is we need to have a cashier's check up front so we know that the entire project is going forward,
gonna be funded,
and that we have the ability to do that now if
That way
you
there's no
approve this loan.
hang-ups, yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay, any questions from council?
Not yet.
So we'll take these one at a time. So just so we're clear,
It would be the laundry room?
this one's C and this one is going to be D?
Yes.
With respect to regular business C, I would make a motion to approve the housing loan for not to exceed $22,000.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0, none opposed. Okay, the next item is item 4D, review and potential action regarding approval of housing owner occupied rehabilitation loan number H7664-41, funded by Home, in amount not to exceed $104,610.
Mayor Campbell, this is another loan out of the same grant. This loan is substantially more on the rehabilitation. And again, it's gone through the analysis for loan underwriting and meeting our guidelines. It has gone before the Housing and Community Development Department at state level. They have approved it. We are asking you to consider this loan and approve the final funding. On your council fact sheet, you can see that the low bid on this project was $104,610. That is the bid that has been accepted, and we are proposing that you agree to. The house does look quite stable, as you see the street view of that dwelling.
Yeah.
But if you look at some of the interiors, what happened here is that it appears that the concrete slab has cracked from one side to the other. It has affected both sides of the foundation, and the interior is actually starting to separate. So that's why the rehab is so expensive. We're basically going to try to save some of the walls, put them back together afterwards, but pretty much start from the foundation up.
A lot of money.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't interrupt you.
Go ahead.
No, you, go ahead. No, my question was, it's a lot of money.
Yes.
And it appears that the household doesn't have a lot of income. So my concern, I guess, is that, and I'm not sure that the house, once it's done, is going to be valuable enough to warrant that kind of expense. I mean, I don't know what you feel about that.
Well, some of the analysis does include comparables, comparable evaluations of the house, and it met the criteria for that. And the rehabilitated house is basically going to be a new dwelling. Mm-hmm. The existing stud work complies with code requirements. We're probably going to end up only salvaging one or two walls at the most, and you're essentially going to have a new home on the lot, and therefore when you evaluate that with comparables, it does meet the criteria.
What's that ratio, Mr. Soto? Is there a number?
The loan to value then?
Yeah.
Is it, it's 78%.
So
that
it is
means
78%. So
yeah, they're saying that it's worth about 120 something, which
Yes.
it's not.
The question I have, though, is that annual income? Is that correct?
Yes.
I don't know how they're going to make the payment. I don't know.
The intent of these funds is to target low-income eligible households, so it is by definition an unconventional financing.
Yeah, but the problem.
And it is deferred funding. This funding doesn't take into effect until 30 years. And so if there's a change in occupancy, then the loan is due. It has to be refinanced by the heirs.
Is there a first position on this property already? Do you
Yes.
know? There is a loan on it currently?
Yes.
What is the balance, do you know?
I don't know the balance. I'd have to get you that
The only,
information.
the question, well, I'm gonna say this because my grandmother passed away here a year and a half ago, and she acquired one of these loans through the city before I came along. And basically what happened is she got a loan like this, rehabbed the house, but never made a payment on the loan for. So
Yeah,
between the city and whoever, when she passed away, they just took the house.
Well, basically, in all instances, we try to have the family qualify someone, and in that instance, that's what happened. In the instance you're discussing, Mayor Campbell, and that's the way the CDBG grants are written, and also the home grants.
So,
So there is a loan on it. They're making a payment currently, right?
As far as
They're
I know,
making-
yes, if I
Right, they're
remember
making a
correctly.
payment. We're not sure of that balance. And then on top of that, we're going to we'll be in second position. And yes, it is an unconventional loan. But I can't imagine, I mean, they're already saying it's at 78% loan to value. I don't see the value, or the loan to value being 78%. I mean, it's just my own opinion.
I'm all for helping, but if it's gonna, if something like this materializes and when it goes through and the city loses that money, I mean, this is almost a guarantee you're gonna lose that money. Unless I'm seeing this wrong.
Perhaps,
can't
Francisco, I think
just-
it would be helpful for you to restate the goals of the program.
Yeah, the goals
And-
of the program is basically it's a deferred loan. It was especially for that. It's to afford a longtime homeowner or a homeowner of a single-family occupied dwelling to be able to have a house that meets standard construction. And we know that these are deferred, and in the CDBG grants that we had, those were also deferred loans, especially to elderly people. And we would, very few of them have ever foreclosed. Usually the family gets together and they refinance, or we have a family member who can qualify, and we...
takes over.
Yeah, they can take over the loan. That's in the guidelines.
I guess my concern is, we're not, I don't see us getting any payments. Once we do the loan of $104,000, I just don't see that we're going to get any payments, but maybe that's the
grant-
norm rather than the exception, and so I don't.
The grant is geared that way for the almost total reconstruction. The actual grant is geared in that fashion.
Maybe-
In 30 years, then things are going to come due.
Sure. Maybe it'll help the rest of council. I know it'll help me if we table this item.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily
Discuss.
vote against it, but we can discuss it further and maybe get a little bit more backup information with respect to the outstanding balance on the
Yeah, but
property.
when
How
you
long
look,
have we
when
been
you-
working on this?
We've been working on this since, I think, early May. This was one of the ones that we actually wanted to reconstruct. We wanted to construct an entirely new house. It was with HCD for 7 weeks. They would not approve the reconstruction. So since we were losing that time and an ability to spend out of the grant, we requested that they allow us then to call it a rehabilitation. And we said we know that the stud work and the framework meets current code. We'll keep 2 walls. And they acquiesced at that time.
So my question is, Mayor Pro Tem, you want to table this. Okay, so what is it that you're looking for, number one, and what's going to make you change your mind or say no?
The balance, we're not sure what the balance is on the first.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be in a second position. So seeing what that dollar figure is and see where that would put us as far as value. I mean, we can't predict necessarily what 30-year value would be, but we can certainly look at what that is today. For example, if there is, as an example, let's say there's a $75,000 balance currently and we're loaning 104, that would, that's going to be $180,000.
Do we at least know how long they've been there?
Yes. No, I can't tell you how long they've been there. I know that the house has been there since the early 60s. But I don't know
I just
as far as
can't,
the
I just
owner.
can't, I can't see how
They can't make it.
$12,000 a year income.
The reason there is concern is because we have had loans that have
Oh, yes.
defaulted, and so
Yeah,
that's the reason.
We can bring it back, but
Well, I would feel better if there's a small balance. Let's say there's $12,000 or $15,000, then we can.
I don't know what the balance is.
Right, no, I understand that. But I think for peace of mind, it's just a little bit
So
of.
can we say, maybe, is there any way we can say that? And if it's, 15,000 or less, then it'll be okay and we don't have to bring it back? Or do we have to wait?
I need to know the numbers. I mean, to me, I don't think it's fair to the public or to anybody else to approve something like this, knowing that it's just.
I know, we're
with
not,
that income,
we're not approving it, we're just putting it off till.
Yeah.
Mayor Campbell, if I may suggest maybe an alternative for your consideration. Our next council meeting is in approximately 3 weeks. My question to Francisco is, would the delay of 3 weeks dramatically change
No,
whether or not
we
this
are-
project would be eligible if the council wished to move forward?
No, we are running towards the end of being able to use this grant. It expires on December 31st. However, there's a couple of months after that, once you commit the funds, to be able to finish up. So if a decision was made in the first meeting of October, we could still go forward with
And
this.
between now and then, I would be happy to work with Community Development Services on a more detailed snapshot of the property, what's outstanding, what the stated goals are of the program, which
Right.
I think in some ways it bucks conventional wisdom.
Right, no, I understand
With
that.
the end goal being improving housing stock for low-income families.
I would like to
Yes.
see.
And I think in the, I'm sorry,
That's
Mayor.
okay,
And I think in the future, I think these questions that we're asking today, if they can be answered, so we don't,
In
we
advance,
have that
right.
information at hand
Of
every
course.
time we get the
That'll
home.
be fine.
And I think it needs to be someone on the paperwork, a family member, whoever that may be, because Mr. Soto was saying 90% of the time, someone else really takes over the loan and all that. Why can't we put that in place?
Well,
from the
that
beginning?
would occur in a 30-year time period, so I'm not sure how we would be able to do that, that Mayor Campbell would tell you.
Things change.
Just for a mental reference too, the way I view it, on regular business item C, the one that we just approved for $22,000, that's a $26,000 project. And I think you can see that the improvements will add significant value to that home. And so, in this case, I'm not sure if that is going to do the trick. I know it'll make it new, but certainly there may be a very, very large outstanding balance.
Yeah,
So-
that would be substantially a new home.
Okay, and also in looking at that, we're making a $26,000 loan to somebody that has double the income of the person that we're making a $104,000 loan to. And so that makes me feel more comfortable with
I
the
understand.
first one as opposed to the second one.
And that's certainly why it comes before you. That is not the focus of the grant, and so that's why people can qualify.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
And that's
I
understandable.
understand that, and I know about helping.
I just experienced it, I know, yeah.
Just out of an abundance of caution, I think it's best if we just
Yeah.
consider
Let's
that.
take a look
So.
at it. Let's just do that, and that way we can discuss it. And
We'll bring it back to
Yeah.
the first meeting in
And
October.
Francisco, I commend you for the work that you guys do to help the folks that, you know.
Sure, we'll be back then, first meeting in October, with the information that you requested.
Okay.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Sultan.
We'll want this back.
Yeah.